episode of Tatiana and Angelica Live. I'm Tatiana Mroczek.
And I'm Angelica Mroczek. And today we're here with Assemblyman Michael Reilly, who represents New York's 62nd Assembly District covering South Shore of Staten Island and parts of Mid-Island. Assemblyman Reilly serves as the ranking minority member of the Assembly's Committee on Cities, Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, Housing, and Higher Education.
First serving the United States Reserve, for later the New York Police Department as lieutenant for Brooklyn's 90th Precinct, Assemblyman Reilly fights for improving education and transportation systems, ensuring adequate funding for schools, fighting the opioid crisis, and supporting the law enforcement officers.
In 2014, Assemblyman Reilly served as the president for the Community Education Council 31, working for traffic safety, especially around school zones. Assemblyman Reilly also served as a volunteer member of the Staten Island YMCA's Board of Managers.
Thank you for joining us today, Assemblyman Reilly.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
How are you today? How's your summer going so far?
Oh, so far so well. So far so good. I'm having a good time. I'm getting some sun out there, walking around, so it's good.
That's good. Have you been on any recent vacations with your family? Are you planning anything exciting?
We actually are planning a trip to Maryland.
Oh, very nice.
We're actually leaving next week, this Sunday actually. So we're going for a couple of days. And then I'm really excited in September. My wife Mary and I are headed to Ireland.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, with the Irish American legislators. So we're going for a 10-day trip. To meet some legislators over there. So I'm hoping that we'll have a great time.
That's so exciting.
That's exciting. This year alone, there have been 9 suicides regarding NYPD police officers. Why do you think they happen so frequently, and what can be done to prevent them?
You know, it's really heartbreaking, these suicides. And I have a personal connection to at least one I used to work with. I am deeply saddened by it. The most recent one, I actually met him at a Yankee game a couple of months ago, back in April. So, you know, it's very difficult to understand why and how, and we also often question it. But I think some of the factors, the outside factors in life, play a major role in it as well. So we don't know what was going on in their personal lives, but I will tell you that the job of police officer is very stressful. You have to remember that when a police officer is called to a scene, most of the time it's people that are in despair and they're going through some really rough times. Police officers have to hold that in, and they have to respond to every incident. So they see people at their worst, and quite often they've seen some horrific things, like really bad vehicle accidents, people that may have been shot or stabbed, people that were killed, babies that were hurt in horrific ways. So officers often have that in their psyche, and they remember that, and all these things are bottled up. So I think part of the issue is sometimes there's no outlet for officers to get that off their chest, speak about it, but there are options, right? We need to make sure that officers understand that it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. There are organizations out there that can help. PAPA is one organization, and it's a not-for-profit that has volunteers that are retired members of the NYPD and active members, and they act as peer counselors. So there's someone out there that wants to listen, and you know, my door is always open. If anybody ever needs assistance, they can reach out to us at the office, and I will do my best to help them. So we have to remember that police officers are human too, and they are fallible, and they have some weaknesses, and quite often it's the impact that they see on the streets that they don't want to take home to their families and discuss it because they don't want their families to worry. And by bottling that up, sometimes puts so much pressure on them. But the most important thing is that we have to make sure that they understand that there are people to help and they will listen.
Yeah. Mental health and PTSD programs for NYPD police officers are very important. So,
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yes.
In the news, there have been stories about New Yorkers throwing Chinese food at the NYPD, throwing water at them, and general disrespect for police officers. There's something that you started called Back to Blue. Tell us a little bit about that and why it's important, please.
So Back to Blue was a petition that myself and my team created to get people to support legislation that my colleague, Assemblyman Michael Epstein from Long Island, introduced. That legislation he asked me to help with because of my experience in law enforcement with the NYPD. And that legislation would make it a felony for anyone to throw a liquid or any other substance at a police officer in the performance of their duty. Now, the issue is that the Speaker of the Assembly, Assembly Member Carl Hasty, who's the Speaker, he raised some concerns about the legislation, and he thinks that we don't need more laws to combat this unfortunate incident. Unfortunately, talking to people and letting them know that they shouldn't do it isn't working. And I think that Back to Blue, the petition, lets people, our constituents and residents all across the state, actually tell us that they want to support it. And we're hoping that that petition will open the eyes of other elected officials throughout the state, that they will support the legislation. Because let's remember that it's water today. We don't know what it is any other day. We don't know what can be used. And put it into perspective, like the incident where a bucket of water was dumped over an officer's whole body in Brownsville, Brooklyn, his whole uniform was soaked. Now, we have to remember that that water, that getting drenched like that, impacts their equipment. It can impact the bullet-resistant vest, making it subjectable to not working properly. It can damage their radio, meaning they can't call for help to help the community. And it can damage their department-issued phone. So this isn't just about officer safety. This is about the public safety as well.
Very good points.
Thank you.
So there's a very interesting documentary on HBO called Fire and Ice, and it talks about climate change. Do you believe in global warming?
I do believe that there are some changes happening in our world, but I actually believe that there's a secular dimension to this, meaning that, listen, we had the ice ages, right? We had things happening throughout the world where we have things that change. But I do think that us as global citizens can do our part to help by recycling, by eliminating some excess gases that we use. So there are things that we can do to help preserve our beautiful world. So yes, I do believe that there are some changes that are happening, and we can do our part.
There's a lot of carbon dioxide in the air. Even planting a little tree to lower those levels will even help. So
Yeah,
there are very little things
absolutely.
that people can do.
Absolutely.
With the recent suicide of Jeffrey Epstein, what do you think about all these conspiracy theories impacting his demise?
Well, with my prior law enforcement experience, and I rather rely on actual investigations than looking into conspiracy theories. Unfortunately, social media has played a major role in putting forward those conspiracy theories, and I much rather wait for the investigation to take its course, and let's find out some more facts about what happened, and I think that's what I'll wait on.
So you said that the social media spreads around the conspiracy theories. How has social media affected your decision to run, and to win? Because I know that you have a really big social media following.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that people on Staten Island turn to me for advice, for questions that they have, for answers to the questions that they have. And, it all started because I started sharing traffic alerts, letting people know when they should avoid a certain area, letting them know why there's a helicopter over their head. Social media can be such a positive thing, but it can also be a cruel thing. And we see that firsthand by some of the things that are posted and comments and videos that show up on social media. So with my social media following, I think I was able to build a relationship with the community where they knew that I was just like them, and they wanted to support me. And it was kind of like if you asked me in 2006 when I retired from the police department if I would be an elected official, I would have said, I'm going to probably be retired and living in Florida, but my wife didn't want to go. So we stayed in New York, and I wanted to give back, and I was volunteering. And I think that social media presence actually built up what happened today, because the community supported me and they wanted me to run. And I'm blessed to be representing them in the state assembly. And so far, I'm having a great time. I'm actually meeting a lot of people that live in our community, meeting a lot of business owners. So it's really a great thing.
Also, what you said before is that social media is a great thing, but can be used for the wrong purposes. In October 2017, you held anti-cyberbullying assemblies for 4th and 5th graders at school. I'm sure that was really impactful, so can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I've been, probably for the last 8 years, I've been volunteering, going to schools and community organizations to provide internet safety, cyberbullying, and digital citizenship seminars, assemblies. So I give these assemblies to students in kindergarten through 12th grade. So I have a different approach for different grade levels. So what I do is I discuss some of the things that are going on social media. I give them strategies or I present them with strategies where they can make better choices. I don't want to sit there and tell them that they shouldn't do certain things. I want them to have an active role in actually making the decision. So I give them scenarios from my own life, from my children's experience, from other parents and kids that I've heard from, and I try and use a little humor in it, to get a laugh. But the message is that they need to protect themselves. And a couple of the hashtags that I use when I post about it, and I actually discuss with the students while we're hosting the assembly, and I tell them to think before they click. Think about how that post, how that picture is going to represent you, how it's going to represent your family, how it's going to represent your school. Are people going to think you're a positive person, or are they going to think you're mean? And if you take the 5 seconds to think before you click, that may save you a lot of aggravation. And the next hashtag is digital footprints, which I tell them whatever you post today, someone can find it. There are companies now that collect all that social media data, the pictures, the comments you share, and when you get older and you apply for a college or you apply for a job, those companies and those schools are looking into what you've posted. And if you're not the right fit or you don't have the right character they're looking for, then they may bypass you and you may miss that opportunity. So that's why you have to think before you click, because you're creating your digital footprints. And the last one is the hashtag HW check your followers. And what that is a homework assignment that I give the students. And that's to go home and go through their social media and their gaming systems, and whoever they don't know in real life, get rid of them. Because when you go online and you use your devices, it's just like Halloween. You have that screen name, that's a mask. and everybody's hiding behind that mask. And you never know who's really there. And quite often it happens where it can be an adult pretending to be a kid. And what they're trying to do is get your information, maybe try and meet up with you. So that's really a really important message too. If you don't know the person in real life and they reach out to you and they ask to meet with you, absolutely tell them no and tell an adult you trust.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to shine light on, because a lot of kids think that it's innocent and that everyone wants to be their friend, but that's not always the case. So
yeah,
it's a
because
good thing.
quite often people may see a picture, another kid may see a picture of a kid, and his name might be Mikey Cutie, right? And he looks like that fifth grader at the neighboring school that you go to. But meanwhile, it's a 46-year-old man hiding behind that screen.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Absolutely.
So, as you said, a lot of electronics are taking over kids' lives. So you like to address Staten Islanders face-to-face, because I've read in the Staten Island Advance that you've started something called Town Tour Thursdays. Can you please tell us more about it and what it's meant to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm having fun doing it. We just did Charleston yesterday. So Town Tour Thursdays is I pick a town within the 62nd Assembly District, which covers mostly the South Shore and a little bit of Mid-Island. And I'll pick a town like Charleston, and I'll go visit some of the businesses that are located in that town. I'll knock on doors and talk to the residents, because quite often, the only time you used to see politicians walking door to door or visiting is when it's election time.
Yeah.
So myself and my team, we want to be something different. We want to be that person that's in your face even when we're not running for election. That we're listening to you, we want to hear your concerns, we're not going to shy away from it, and we want to highlight the positives of our community and the businesses, the small businesses that are thriving, or some that may need help in really adding to the community. So we think this is a great way to give back to our community and make sure that we're all aware of the things that are available to us.
Yeah.
If you could grant Staten Islanders 3 wishes, what would they be?
So I have to say the first wish would probably be to eradicate the heroin epidemic that has impacted our community. So many families have been impacted. I think that's probably one of the most detrimental things to our island at this time. And I think if we can eliminate it, we would be such a better place. So the second one would be that the Staten Island Expressway would have no traffic at all.
Yes.
I know that is pie in the sky, but that would be a wish of mine. The third wish, I think it would be to have the sun shine on us every day, because I think that would improve our demeanor. It would improve our community greatly. So.
Especially with all the crazy weather patterns lately.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a very busy schedule. What do you do to relax?
Well, believe it or not, I like to walk. And I used to walk on the treadmill in the gym, when it's bad weather, or in the winter time. But my daughter Emma actually got me into getting out and walking the trails in some of our parks around the South Shore, around the 62nd Assembly District. So it kind of took me over, and that's what I try and do. I try and go for a walk around the community. I've been fortunate that the weather has been really good to me. I've been able to get out there. So it's actually letting me relax. I'm actually enjoying nature. I'm going through the trails of our parks. But the really good thing, and it just came to me one day when I was doing the walk, is I was able to take in some scenery and maybe snap a few pictures and share them later on. Letting people know of all the majestic places we have on Staten Island. And, so far that's been a very positive thing, because everybody seems to follow where I'm walking. They want to know where I went that day. But if it brings them to the parks and it brings them to know about some of the things that are in our community, then that's great. But most of all, I'm getting some exercise. It's clearing my mind. So that's the relaxation.
Do you think that Donald Trump is a good president?
When it comes to the president's policies, I think he's doing a good job. I support the policies. I support the direction that the country's going in. Some of the outside distractions, like social media stuff and the banter that goes on, I think we can do with a lot less. We don't need to see that. But if we base it on policies and some of the trends that we're seeing in politics, I mean, in the administration's rollout of policies, I agree with it.
Can you please tell us about your family?
Sure. I'm married to a wonderful woman, Mary. I have 3 great kids. My son, John, who's going to be 18 on September 10th. My daughter, Kate, who just turned 15 on July 14th. And my daughter, Emma, who just turned 12 on June 29th. And we also have my little Jackson Schnoodle, Jackson Doodle the Schnoodle. He's a Schnauzer Poodle. He's our favorite. Just to put it out there, right? I also have my mother-in-law who lives with me, Francine. So we have a nice little bunch, I guess, right? They're a handful, like most kids are, right? But we have good times. We, like I said, we're going to be going away for vacation soon in Maryland. So we're having some good times. We're enjoying the summer. We're not counting down till school starts, which quite often over the years I used to joke with my kids and bust their chops and give them a countdown to when school started. Since they've gotten older and things have, they're more self-sufficient, I don't really do that to them as much anymore.
Yeah, we have a cat named Mango, so we have a cat in our family too. Yeah,
and we just got some new fish as well.
Oh, nice.
When was the first time you knew that you were interested in politics, and was there someone or something who sparked your interest?
Believe it or not, I think what really drove me into this path is my advocacy with the Community Education Council. Before I retired from the police department, I wasn't really into politics. Then I started volunteering at my kid's school. I got elected to the Community Education Council, and I started to realize that I needed to go to our elected officials to gain their support for some of the initiatives that I thought were the right approach. I travel to Albany each year for Education Lobby Day. I actually took my son John up the first time, and then when Kate reached the 3rd grade, all 3 of us went up, and we would go visit all our Staten Island electeds in their Albany office. And then we'd go into the chamber, into the Senate chamber and the Assembly chamber. So I think that's where I really grasped the concept of how the legislative process works, the things, how we can move things from an idea to actually implementing them. And I think the bonds that I've built, the friendships that I've made, whether it's professionally or in a personal level, I think those are the things that really made me focus on what politics and getting elected should be. And it's about forging those relationships, because that's how you get things done. And I think that the 10 years that I served on Community Education Council 31 helped me transition into this role.
Great, thank you.
How did you react when the results came out from Election Day? Who were you with, and what do you remember most about that night?
Wow. I was with my wife, And I think the thing that I remember most is her kissing me for congratulations. And I think that was probably the most memorable thing from election night. And then seeing my kids, they were proud, they were happy and excited. So just having my family support me and being there, and then seeing all my friends and all the supporters there, it was just inspiring. I'm sure there's so many things that I missed that night just because of all the congratulatory support I had there. It was just amazing.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you think you're going to run for Borough President?
Well, you know what? How I've gotten to this point, I can honestly say I wouldn't rule anything out. But I want to just concentrate on where I am now. I'm helping the community. It's really a passion of mine. So if there's any way that I can help in a bigger way in the future, and that presents itself, then I won't rule it out. But that's up to the public. That's up to the voters to decide. But for me, I just want to help.
Now that we're finished with some of the questions, it's time to move on to the lightning round.
Uh-oh.
So the lightning round is simple questions with short, sweet answers right to the point. So, do you play an instrument?
I do not.
What is the last book you read?
The last book I read, well, I'm trying to think. It was The President's Follies.
Cool. We have to read 3 books every summer for summer reading, so we're in the middle of reading a book called How to Read Literature Like a Professional. So, very
nice.
cool.
I'm also reading Great Expectations.
Awesome.
Spinach or broccoli?
Broccoli, but I like both.
Kit Kat or Snickers?
Snickers.
Have you ever smoked marijuana?
No.
Madonna or Beyonce?
Madonna.
James Bond or Indiana Jones?
Indiana Jones.
Upstate Cabin or Jersey Shore?
Upstate Cabin.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Me too.
Mets or Yankees?
Mets. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Fruits or vegetables?
Vegetables.
Okay. Very nice answers. I agree with a lot of your answers
thank
too. Well, this concludes this episode of Tatiana and Angelica Live. We had a great time interviewing you, Assemblyman Michael Reilly. If you would like to learn more information about Assemblyman Reilly and his campaign, please visit nyassembly.gov. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.